Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursaleen, nabiyyina Muhammadi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Amma ba'du, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another session of Fiqh Hour. I'm noticing, mashallah, that people are sending questions in after 7 p.m., even though it was categorically told to people to send questions in by 7 p.m. And I noticed that the few of them are based on Ramadan. So I think it would be useful if we, whilst we're waiting for people to join, is to maybe go over some of the masail of Ramadan. So just so that it gets people a little bit clearer on how to understand what needs to get done. I'm not going to go through every single little bit. Obviously, we all know that it is compulsory to fast in the month of Ramadan. That's something that we need to understand. What is fasting? Obviously, fasting comes under the term of imsak, okay, which is to restrain, to hold back. And what are we restraining or what are we refraining from? We are refraining from any intimacy between husband and wife. We are refraining from anything being added to or entering one's cavities, mouth, ears, whatever, whether this is deliberate or accidental. The time is from true dawn until the sun sets. And obviously, this is also with the niyyah of fasting. And these are from those individuals who are permitted to fast. So that's the general understanding that we have about what fasting is. There are numerous people who are excused from fasting, as I'm sure we all know. That would be a woman who is menstruating or in postnatal bleeding, lochia, as it's sometimes referred to, nifas. They will be excused because, in fact, they are not permitted to fast in that state. But the ones who are truly excused are the ones who are either going to become ill as a consequence of fasting, or if they're carrying child and their children or the unborn child will potentially become sick. And therefore, in those circumstances, she is permitted to be excused. Okay. Similarly, if a person is in a severe illness and as a consequence, this severe illness will be further exacerbated if this person continues to fast, or it will slow down the recovery stage for them. So in that case, again, they are permitted to be excused. But like I said, this is something in which it should be sought from the permission should be sought from experts in the field rather than a person diagnosing themselves. We talked the other day about the fact that you must be on a trip or on a journey before Fajr time starts. And again, I encourage, and the Sharia encourages fasting in Ramadan if it's not going to cause you any problems, because this is Ramadan. And each day in Ramadan holds great value. Let's jump on to, so what are the requirements for a fast? One has to have a niyyah. Okay, very important to have a niyyah. And also, in the case of a woman, to be free from impurity, meaning outside, she cannot be in the state of hayd or in the state of nifas, which means that if a person is in a state of janaba, even if it is major, yani this is obviously major when a person is in a state of janaba, then the fast is still valid. Yes, they should perform ghusl as soon as possible, but the fast itself is still valid. Some people get confused and think that the fast itself is not valid. The fast is valid. Intention is quite simple. However, the Ahnaf are of the view that one must make a niyyah at every fast, because each fast is seen as an isolated piece of ibadah. Not like, say, the Maliki, who see the whole month of Ramadan as an act of ibadah. We say obviously intention is what is in the heart, so it's not required to articulate it, but it is useful to articulate it, to mention it as well. And the niyyah obviously is, for example, the niyyah for the fard fast. It should be made from the Maghrib of the previous to before the Islamic midday. And we're going to talk about the Islamic midday as to what it is of the following day. Okay. This is providing that one did nothing that would invalidate the fast from the start of Fajr time. It is better, obviously, it is afzal to make night before one fasts, meaning as soon as you've had Maghrib before Fajr time, to make the niyyah then. However, one can obviously make their niyyah up until half the day. And we're not talking about noon here, we're talking half. I can explain that to you shortly, inshallah. So what is midday is called a Dawah al-Kubra. Okay. And this is halfway point. And what do we mean by halfway point? Halfway point is the time between the Fajr time and the Maghrib time. Okay, so if say Fajr start time was 5 a.m. and Maghrib start time is 5 p.m., then you're going to find halfway between 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Obviously, from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. is 12 hours. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 6 add 5 is 11. So 11 a.m. would be Islamic midday, not noon. Okay. Which means that one has to make the intention before the Islamic midday in order for that fast to be valid. Okay. Obviously, it is preferable to make that in the evening, but you can make it up until that point. If one did not make an intention to fast, okay, or decided not to fast, then obviously that fast, then there's no fast there, so there is only going to be a qadha due because he's not fasted. Obviously, it is sinful to not fast for no reason. I think that covers, because then obviously we're going to go into what things constitute the breaking of a fast, what doesn't constitute the breaking of a fast. So let's for now take up some of the questions that have come on here. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. What should someone do when they missed a wajib act of Salah and he realized just after taslim? Then if he realized just after taslim, so he's making Salah and it is a wajib act, and he realizes after taslim, then once he's made his taslim, he can go back into making the sajda sahwi. Once he's made the sajda sahwi, he will repeat the at-tahiyyat, he will repeat the shahada, and obviously he will finish his salah there, because there is there is a position by which a person can complete their salah even if they've prayed all the way till the end, and they can make their sajda sahwa at that particular time. So let's pick up some questions which came on Markazul Ifta wal Qadha. And the question which came in is, since determining the entry, or we'll come back to that in a bit, if a morsel of food at the start of Fajr was less than a chickpea size, can it be swallowed based on the fact that it's already in the mouth? No, it cannot be swallowed, because the fast breaks when something goes past the throat. It doesn't matter what's in the mouth. Obviously, if the fast broke every time somebody took something into their mouth, then the fast would break. If a person gargled water for wudu, their fast would break. So that's not the point. The breaking of the fast is going past the throat and entering, obviously, as a consequence, into the stomach. And that's where the problem will arise. If one swallows the morsel of food in one's mouth at the start of Fajr, not knowing that it should have been spat out, will the fast be vitiated, and what will be its consequence? If a person intentionally eats something, which is what this person is doing, even if he does it mistakenly, then obviously this person will be required to make a qadha of that fast, and also in this case he will also be required to make kafara. Obviously, that will depend on his intention. If he had made the intention the night before, then it will be kafara. If he's not made his intention yet, because it is morning, then obviously it will only be qadha, because he has up until, as we just said, Dawah al-Kubra, Dawah al-Kubra, he has up until Islamic midday to make his niyyah. Assalamu alaikum. Is it permissible to do dhikr, say Bismillah, when in the shops mall and there is music in the background? Yes, it is permissible to do dhikr wherever you go. Listen to the music in the background. No problem in conducting oneself in. Why is the intention to fast a day of Ramadan extended to Dawah Kubra? Yet when one intentionally vitiates the fast whose intention was made after Fajr, but before Dawah Kubra, is said to have made a violation of an amal that has a shubha, thereby already requiring qadha and no kafara. Why is the intention to fast a day of Ramadan extended to Dawah Kubra? Why? Well, the reason why it is because you are still fasting the majority of the day as long as you make your niyyah, and therefore the Sharia is giving you some scope to be able to make that niyyah up until that point. Because if it's half the day, which is what we've talked about, the Islamic midday, remember, is half the day. It is not noon, it is half the day. And once you have made that, so you niyyah before that time, you still have the full day to fast. And the fasting is about imsak. And what you've done is you've not done anything since the true dawn. You've not eaten anything. You've not done anything to compromise your fast. And on top of that, you've made your niyyah. So you're amalan fasting. And then obviously you've made your niyyah before Dawah Kubra. So therefore, it would be considered as valid. Yet when one intentionally vitiates the fast whose intention is made after Fajr, but before that is said to have made a violation of an amal that a shubha, thereby already requiring a qadha and no kafara. No, if a person has made intention to fast and then he eats, okay, then he has his qadha and kafara. This will only be qadha if he did not make niyyah and then he ate. Then it will be qadha, because it is like a shubha here, because of the fact that he is not been eating anything since true dawn. And because he's not been eating anything since true dawn, so he had the chance and the opportunity to fast. However, he decided to eat. Therefore, there is only qadha due upon him. Since determining the entry of true Fajr is an ijtihadi endeavor, can we also validate the fast for those whose timings are different from the ones listed by Wifaqul Ulama? We have to first understand what we mean by ijtihadi. So when we look at something which is ijtihadi, let me give you an example. So according to, for example, the Shafi, if a person touches a ghair mahram with the palm of his hand, then his wudu breaks. Okay. For a Hanafi, that the Hanafi's wudu does not break. So they disagree. The Hanafi school disagrees with the Shafi school on this point. But this point is ijtihadi. Why is it ijtihadi? It's ijtihadi because there is hadith which supports the Shafi school and there is hadith which supports the Hanafi school. So how have they reached the conclusion to prioritize the hadith, the Shafi have, of lams bil yad, and the Hanafi have not? So they have applied their ijtihad to, in the case of the Hanafi, to dismiss those narrations. And the Shafi have, using their ijtihad, prioritized those narrations. When we bring it to now and we say, okay, Wifaqul Ulama suggest that one should refrain from eating after, say, 3:30 a.m. because it is now reached 18 degrees, and 18 degrees is more closely linked to true dawn. So because it's linked to true dawn, 18 degrees, therefore one should refrain from eating after that particular time. Others might say, oh, you can carry on eating till 4:30, 5:30 in the morning. So the question arises, on what basis is that? Now, if this is a position which has said that we are linking that time to this particular astronomical event, and that astronomical event is linked to this Shari'i sabab, then that is ijtihad. But that hasn't been explained by anybody as to what Shari'i sabab is being linked to which astronomical data, which is then determining that time. So, for example, when we make our masjid timetables, where do we get our Maghrib timetable from? Well, how do we know what time Maghrib is? Well, we go to Her Majesty's Nautical Astronomical Observatory data, and we find out what time sunset is. We don't stand outside looking out of our windows waiting for the sun to set. We get that data from there. And when we get that data from there, it is that data that we use. So we're using the Shari'i sabab, which is sunset. We are linking it to an astronomical data, which is sunset. And then we are taking the times from there to become our Maghrib time. For Zuhr, we have a time. For Asr, we have a time. So then on what basis then are we determining our Fajr time? What is the Shari'i sabab? Once we have the Shari'i sabab, then we link it to a astronomical data, which then we extract and draw our timetables from. So it can only be ijtihadi if both positions have taken that approach. It cannot be ijtihadi if one cannot give the argument and the rationale for why that prayer time is what it is. They are not equals then. One is based on a system, and one is just an arbitrary figure that exists. So therefore, until one has that extracted in that way, then yes, one could say that is ijtihadi as well. Like, for example, some might say that Isha is on Ash-Shafaq Ahmar. And because it's on Ash-Shafaq Ahmar, then that equates to 15 degrees. And they can present their argument. They can present their research. Now, some people may not agree with that. They may say, actually, no, Shafaq Ahmar is X degrees or whatever. And therefore, but that's an ijtihadi thing now. They both have a system. They both have a Shari'i sabab, which is being linked to an astronomical act, which is then obviously being associated with a particular time. Then you can say they're ijtihadi. But you cannot say something is ijtihadi when it doesn't have any system, anything underlying where that particular ruling comes from. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Suhaib, how are you? Is it permissible to sleep on your stomach? No, it is not, Suhaib. You should already know that. Sheikh, as I'm in university, so I see girls and boys doing things together that they shouldn't be doing. So if I have a surety that they are not brother sister, should I give them dawah? You are entitled to approach who you see fit if you feel that there is haram being committed. Absolutely. Sheikh, what is the afzal tareen dhikr to do according to hadith? As I listen people saying that this is a most endorsed zikr. Endorsed zikr? You mean like it's been a established zikr? Then you just go by what? If I say salam to someone in wrong talaffuz, will I get some reward as if I get saying it with the right talaffuz? You have a lot of questions to hear, but you know, sometimes you listen for the answer. Alhamdulillah, you're just firing away like a cowboy from the Wild West, mashallah. So let's get back to that question, because I said, so there is numerous narrations that mention certain certain adhkar that one can do. Yani the one Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah. You know, the main common ones. These are the ones which are repeated time and time again. Oh, I see. So you ask all your questions and then you watch the video the next day, mashallah. That's a good idea. Excellent. Okay. So in that way, there are numerous. There's not restrictive. We cannot say this is the best, whatever. We have these numerous dhikr that we can make, and we should make that dhikr. Is this live? Yes, it is. Wa alaikum salam. Yes. Does it not say live at the top with a big red box and then the word LIVE in it? I think that gives it away, Mr. HSSTO, whatever that is. This is your better angle, mashallah. I didn't know I had a better angle. I thought all my angles were good. Alhamdulillah. Khair. You have a choice of angles. You Instagram, you can have it directly in front on a slightly this angle from what's it called, Facebook, and then a little bit more here from there. So yeah, mashallah, we'll meet tomorrow, inshallah. Yeah, I hear that there's voting going on in Pakistan or something like that. Salam wa rahmatullah. Let's not make this into a political thing, eh? Let's just leave that parked up there. Wouldn't the Shafi suburb not be 15 degrees? Yes, the Shafi suburb would be 15 degrees based on that, assuming they link their Ahmar to 15 degrees. That's quite correct. Sometimes you see I've read some articles in which they link, they have Asfar as well. And then they have 12.5 for Ahmar and 15 for Asfar and things like that. So you have because this is the ijtihad part, where we were raising that question. Where we were raising that question, which is about what is ijtihadi. Sometimes people, just because they have a different position, they say, oh, this is ijtihadi ikhtilaf. No, ijtihadi ikhtilaf is when it's based on something. It's not like if someone says, oh, 2 and 2 is 4, and 2 and 2 is 5. There's an ijtihadi ikhtilaf in this. How are you on about ijtihadi ikhtilaf? Based on what? Show on first principles how 2 and 2 is 5. And somebody can show on first principles how 2 and 2 is 4. So this is not an ijtihadi ikhtilaf. Ijtihadi ikhtilaf is that both have evidence, both have a sound system, both have a sound reasoning to reach to a particular conclusion. Now you can say it's ijtihadi ikhtilaf. And that's for the ulama then to discuss that, to reason on that, and to decide on what particular position to adopt. But just to say, oh, this is how we're going to do this, then that's a problem. Walaikum salam. I heard in a clip recently each prophet had their own mi'raj journey. And are you aware of this? As I couldn't find any titles. I'm not aware of this, that each Nabi had their mi'raj. In fact, this was something which was quite specific to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And this was a unique visit, a unique opportunity. We know this was a very difficult time for the Prophet ﷺ, and therefore for him to be taken in that really difficult time and to present himself in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was a unique blessing and ni'mah that was bestowed upon him. How long after sunrise should you wait before you can pray Salah? It's around 10-15 minutes should suffice. That's roughly that one should wait after sunrise. Again, with the sunrise times, we have taken, or you should take rather, refraction into consideration. So you add an extra sort of 5 minutes approximately to the sunrise time that you're getting from HMNAO, and therefore that would be sufficient, about 15 minutes or so. If the Mi'raj was only unique to the last prophet, how did other prophets get namaz for their people? Interesting point. Well, in answer to that, I'll pose another question. That did the Prophet ﷺ pray Salah prior to the Mi'raj? Because remember, the Mi'raj happened about sort of 18 months or so before Hijrah. So therefore, this was near the end of his time in Mecca. So declaration, and we know the Prophet ﷺ spent approximately 13 years in Mecca and approximately 10 years in Medina. So therefore, if it's the last year and a half of Mecca, then the Prophet ﷺ, he's in his early 50s now. So what did the Prophet ﷺ pray before Mi'raj? Did he pray before Mi'raj? Let me ask that question. Did the Prophet ﷺ pray Salah before Mi'raj? Did the Sahaba radiallahu anhu ajma'in pray Salah before Mi'raj? Oh, everybody's gone quiet now. Anybody got an answer? Everyone's internet's gone, like they quickly pulled the cable out of the internet. Yes, he says questioningly. Yes, they did pray. They did pray before the Mi'raj. But did another prophet not ask the prophet to reduce the prayer numbers? That's correct. Musa alayhi salatu salam. That's correct. That's correct. So no, the point I'm trying to make, HSS2, is the fact that prayer existed. So what I'm saying is that Mi'raj wasn't the means by which prayer was given to the Muslims. Therefore, it did not require, each Nabi did not require at Mi'raj in order for their people to be given a prayer. So prayer existed, but it was not obligatory. Okay. Tahajjud was kind of pretty much obligatory on the Prophet ﷺ, but bar that, there was nothing else that was obligatory in the sense that the 5 daily prayers. So there was, in reports, it mentions that there were 2 prayers, one in the morning and one in the sort of afternoon, early evening. That was approximately made up of 2 rakats. So Salah existed because we know the Muslims prayed in Mecca because this was a cause of great anger for the mushrikun, because they would get very angry at this. And then obviously the Prophet al-Islam, once after Mi'raj, he was only there for another 18 months or so before he traveled across to Medina. And then obviously Medina was the first place where a masjid was built. Well, just outside of Medina was the first masjid that was built. There was no masjid that was built in Mecca. People used to pray in small groups, gathering in certain houses or in each other's houses because they had to keep it very hush-hush because of the reaction that they would get from the people. So no, there's not that I'm aware of that each Nabi had their own personal Mi'raj. This was something given specifically to the Prophet ﷺ, for the very fact that he was given this close encounter. We know, for example, that the Anbiya that were there, they were already in their heavens. As the Prophet ﷺ ascends the heavens, he visits them. So they were already in their stations, in their maqams. And therefore, they did not venture beyond them. They were restricted. They did not descend from one of the heavens that they were in, and they did not ascend with the Prophet ﷺ with one of the heavens. They stayed where they were. Even Musa ﷺ stayed where he was, and it was the Prophet ﷺ that was descending down, speaking to him, and then ascending again, descending down, speaking to him. So it was only the Prophet ﷺ that was given this freedom to move between the heavens and to have conversation. And he was the guest that Jibreel Islam had brought with him. So he was given this great privilege. He was given this great honor as a leader of the Anbiya, and eventually as the leader of the biggest ummah, because that's one of the situations that we will be in, is that this ummah will be the biggest of ummahs. I always hear from the elders to not go out after Maghrib, especially under trees, and jinn stay there and can harm you. Yes, there is truth to that. Absolutely, that one should avoid venturing out and about. The thing is, now where we live, pretty much, I don't mean me personally, I mean where we live now, is they're very busy areas, so there's very little chance for jinnat to be kind of roaming around. But if you do live in a village, either in this country or a country of your origin, then you'll find that there's places in your village which are pretty quiet, that people don't hang around. And well, apart from the people who are taking drugs or doing whatever, they might hang around, but generally, decent civilized people might not hang around. You'll find there, for example, that those are places that one should avoid. Similarly, when houses have just been left abandoned, then that's where, so because you see, the jinnat will gather in places where they don't want to be disturbed by humans. They don't really like us as much as we don't like them. The feeling is somewhat mutual, so they just want to get on with their own life, doing their own thing. So therefore, we have been warned to avoid going out in those times, and so that we don't get affected. But like I said, now in the world we live in, it's very busy. We don't have any kind of wild animals, so to speak, anymore. Even in the villages of our origins, they've really pushed out anything of that nature out into the sticks, so to speak. So that may have existed in days gone by, but not so much now, relatively speaking. But there's enough of the other type of jinn anyway, so to speak, or the other type of shayateen now, that, as soon as the night falls, obviously there's more chance of getting involved in something untoward, in getting involved in something which can be problematic. So that still exists as well in that regard. But obviously people would go to pray Isha. So they would go after Maghrib in order to pray Isha. But they were instructed by the Prophet ﷺ that once Isha was prayed, that one should endeavor to get home and go to sleep as soon as after, and try not to speak after Isha. Why? Because as we speak, we unfortunately have a habit of maybe doing a little bit of ghibat, or saying something which is incorrect, and causing problems for ourselves. And if we do die in our sleep, then unfortunately we had a chance where our slate could have been cleaned. But what we did was we carried on talking, and now obviously our slate has gathered a little bit more filth, and as we're falling asleep now. So there, because if it's for khair, and you have to speak, you're doing some dars, you're educating somebody, you got to take a call, it's an emergency, things of that nature, then yes. Otherwise, you should try to go sleep as soon as possible. I even know, a number of non-Muslims as well, who are what you would call high achievers, or do, have done great things. You find that they go to sleep as early as possible in the night, and then they get up very early. So they'll get up sort of like 4 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, 5 in the morning, in order to be able to start the day then. And we know the Prophet Islam, he made dua for barakah, yani burika, in the suhoor, in the mornings. But unfortunately, we have a habit where we stay up late at night, and then we struggle to get up in the morning. Whereas the sunnah is to go to sleep early at night, and get up early in the morning. That's the way around, because the Prophet asked for blessings in the mornings, but he didn't ask for blessings in our nights. So you'll find that you can spend hours at night, and yet you've done nothing. And you scratch your head thinking, I've been awake for 6 hours, and what have I done? I've hardly done anything. And yet in the morning, you could be awake for an hour or two, and you would get so many things done. Anything, getting up in the morning has so much khair in this. I get so many tasks out of the way. Wa alaikum salam. Is it permissible to attend a crematorium funeral? When it comes to crematorium funerals, obviously this is most likely going to be a non-Muslim, I would hope, because obviously Muslims are required to bury, and they cannot damage the human body even after the person has been deceased. So therefore, if it is the case where it is a non-Muslim funeral, then there will always be some kind of religious aspects involved, and a Muslim cannot engage in any other faiths, religious practices. They can visit the person or their family afterwards, just to give their condolences, if that person was a neighbor, or if that person was a work colleague or something like that. But when it comes to, say, anything of a place of, where it's a ritual act of worship, a Muslim cannot partake in a ritual act of worship, even if he stands at the back, but he's physically in presence. Then this is problematic. So therefore, he should avoid that, and he should not attend that, and he should not witness that, and rather he may visit after, a day or 2 days after, in order to just give his condolences. Like I said, if it was somebody that lived on the street, or some work colleague or something like that, work colleague's parent or something, and this person wants to just show that Muslims have affection and respect for one another, and therefore he's done that out of courtesy. But when it comes to the religious act itself, then he should avoid those particular religious acts themselves. Bismillah. So we still have some time, alhamdulillah, if you've got more. Otherwise, I can return back to my little script that I was looking at with regards to Ramadan. So when it comes, so the key thing to remember is this, people, if you remember this, everything is fine. There are certain acts, okay, that will break the fast, and you will have to do qadha and kafara. Okay, if you remember it from this, then the rest becomes easy, because there's less of these. There are certain acts Can you please repeat the answer? I know what answer they're asking me to repeat. What is the answer they're asking me to repeat? Yes, people misbehaving as you tell them to come onto one platform and ask your questions and start asking on other platforms, mashallah. Khair, anyway, that's that. So as I was saying, which I was interrupted there, when it comes to if we remember just this, then everything will be easy. If it is a Ramadan fast, and one deliberately eats or drinks something, has intimacy, and the final one swallowing the saliva of one's husband or wife, then these will necessitate a qada and kafara. So remember, this is the easy way to remember that. People say, oh, do I have to do kafara? Do I have to do kafara? If you know for which things you have to do kafara, then the other ones are only qada. That's the easy way to remember. So what requires qada and kafara? It has to be a Ramadan fast. Has to be a Ramadan fast. Right? Has to be a Ramadan fast. And you have to deliberately eat something, drink something. It can even be medicine, something which gives some kind of nourishment or some medicinal benefit, or engage in intimacy. And when we say intimacy, we're talking about the actual physical act, the insertion of one anatomy into the other anatomy, but does not require ejaculation. And then swallowing one's spouse's saliva, whichever way around it is. If those three acts or any of those three acts are done, then there is qada and there is kafara. That's the best way to remember it. Okay. So kafara, we know, is what is kafara? Well, kafara is to fast. Okay. 60 consecutive fasts. Now, for a woman, obviously, who is still relatively young, she will still be experiencing menstruation. Therefore, she might say, well, how am I going to do 60 consecutive fasts if after every month, 3-4 days, I'm menstruating? Then in her case, only those days that she's menstruating will be excluded, and she will restart her 60 days once those 3-4 days are over. So she will also have to do 60 days consecutive. That is what is called kafara. Then there is the qada. Ulama say that it's better to do one's qada first, because the qada is what is owed and the kafara is a penalty. Okay, so that's that. Let's jump back onto here. We've got some more questions here. I have a Sharia compliant pension. For the first 6 years, my employer contributed. Do I have to pay zakah on this? For the last 10 years, I've contributed as well. Do I have to pay zakah on this? I have not drawn any of the pension yet. So I would assume that this type of pension that you have is a pension of which you are the owner. And the way you will determine that you are the owner is you are deciding where that money gets invested. Therefore, ignore the word pension and just think of it as a long-term investment. It's just the phrase pension is used because of the way that these products are marketed. In reality, if you strip away the language, all you have is a long-term investment, an investment that you won't collect until you're 60, 65, 68, 70, 55, whatever you decide. So therefore, because it's a long-term investment and you decide where your money is invested, even though you do not physically have access to that money because that money is tied in a long-term investment, you are dictating where it's invested. Therefore, it is yours. Okay. It is yours. And as it is yours, zakah is due upon it. So you will have to see what the makeup is of your pension, Once you determine what the makeup of your pension is, because it might be, some of it might be in gold, some of it might be in silver, some of it might be in property, some of it might be in businesses. So you need to work out, for example, if it's gold, if it's silver, if it's properties, then what are those properties? Real estate. Is that real estate being let out and you're gaining from the letting, the income, the rental income? Or is it that it's a real estate of which value is appreciating over time? Secondly, or thirdly, whatever point I'm on, is if it's invested in businesses, you then need to work out how much of those businesses are zakat is due upon, because a business is made up of buildings, assets, and then you have to look at what type of assets. So we did a rough calculation. If you go to nzf.org.uk, you'll see that for shares, we did, I think it was around 25%, maybe 40, I think 25%, if I'm not mistaken. But just double check. It's been a while since I've looked at those figures. Which means that whatever the value of the business is, 25% is considered as zakatable, which is a word that people have made up. And then you're taking 2.5% of that. So yes, zakat will be due. The pension is in stocks and shares. So yes, then that will be due. It will be due on that. Okay, so you will need to find out, because stocks and shares are obviously pieces of the business, literally. And if they are pieces of the business, then not all the business is zakatable. So if I owned a business and everything that I have in my business is not zakatable, because I might have an office which I own, and that office is worth 100 grand, but I don't give zakat on the office. Similarly, I don't give zakat on the photocopiers or the desks or the phones or whatever else I have. So what do I give zakat on? I will give zakat on any money that I have or any products that I'm selling. So if I'm a service provider business, then it's only about the money that I have. If I'm a producer, yani I make something and I sell something, then I'm giving zakat on my stock as well. So you'll have to carry out your little research on there. But we've done a lot of good work, alhamdulillah, on nzf.org.uk. If you go onto that website, search it, you'll find a lot of information on there with regards to stocks and shares. And like I said, the phrase pension is just the way that product is marketed. At the end of the day, all it is an investment. There's different types of investments, and this is that type of investment. But because in order to sell it and for people to understand it, they use that phrase pension, which straight away we understand that means something that I put money into, my employer puts money into, and I don't get access to it till I retire, which can be whatever date I've chosen, and then I get access to it. So that's how we understand it. But yeah, as I said, if you go to that website, I think it's nzf.org.uk, and go to stocks and shares or pensions or something like that, you will see my pretty face hopefully on there as well. So I've done a few videos, and you'll find lots of documentation on there and Q&A. We have a large FAQs pool that you can get your information on from there, inshallah. So please do have a look at that, and if that meets your needs, alhamdulillah. If not, then you can always pop back on again. Maybe not today because we've got 10 minutes, but by tomorrow, inshallah, you can pop back on again. But as I said, there is plenty of things on there. Jazakallah for clarifying these points. May Allah accept your efforts. Ameen. Ameen. No more questions coming on here. With Suhaib was obviously gone to go to sleep, so he makes up for Fajr, mashallah. That's good. He's behaving himself. And I think we've got everybody on here. Okay, so last couple of minutes really. So if someone's got a burning question, let's get it out there, as they say. So at least we can finish that last question and then say our goodbyes on this Thursday, inshallah, before Friday. As I mentioned, I think yesterday, on Saturday, I think it's the 29th of Rajab. So therefore, Saturday night, we will be out Hilal spotting, assuming we don't get stuck in the snow. But I hear that the rains are on the way, so all this snow will disappear tomorrow, inshallah. So we will be out Hilal spotting on the Saturday. And if we do spot the Hilal, then obviously we'll be going through the full process of determining and declaring whether Sha'ban has started, which obviously brings us into the last month before Ramadan itself. So those of you who were here when we announced Rajab, inshallah, it was a useful experience for you. Many people came back and said, subhanAllah, I didn't know, the complexities of it. I didn't understand, all the kind of nuances to it. Similarly, it was very good to have this transparent method, and we visualized it as to how you do it, because by the time we come on air on Saturday, we would have taken any shahada witness statements. We would have had some conversations already, and we'll be pretty close to gathering information from our partners as well. So we'd have already done quite a lot of that before I go on air. And then normally we have our meeting at around 8 p.m. So what I do is I keep you guys here so that at least you can hear into the conversation. I don't let you listen into the conversation completely. I don't put it on speaker, but at least you can hear what I'm saying, and that should suffice. Assalamu alaikum. Celebrating birthdays, Mufti Saab, is it allowed in any way? Sometimes a lot of families say kids' happiness, we're not doing the whole shenanigans, just a cake or some food, etc. Yeah, wa alaikum salam. I've discussed this, Sajid Bhai, in a video a few weeks back now, that there's nothing inherently problematic with it. The problem with it is it's not within our tradition. The reason why, and I say our tradition meaning Islamic tradition, the reason why it's not in our tradition, because there's no real reason for us to be celebrating. We only celebrate things, by, first of all, how we celebrate is we celebrate by, ada shukr, yani proclaiming our gratefulness to Allah, showing we are pleased with Allah and we are content and we are grateful. That's all we do. So when a person becomes hafiz of Quran, what do? This is our way of expressing shukr. Or when our child finishes qaida, we do shukr. When a child finishes the first, juz of Quran, we do shukr. So we can express our gratefulness. And the way we encourage our children is we buy them cakes, we buy them gifts. We go, mashallah, you've done hifz of first para. Come on, you could do the next one. And we're cajoling them and motivating them, going, what are we saying when we say, okay, you've got to 7. Come on, let's see if you can get to 8. Come on, I know you can do this. You can get to 8 years old. You could do this. I believe in you. What did the kid do? Oh, you stayed alive for a year. Well done. Just try not to die this coming year. So it's not really something. It's not like it's not like an achievement, is it? We should do shukr to Allah. Don't get me that part. I agree that we should be grateful to Allah. Oh, Allah, you give me a year. I'm thankful to you. Oh Allah, make my next year better. Oh Allah, improve me, in that way. So there's nothing wrong in that. Okay, so there's nothing wrong in remembering our birthday, if that makes sense. There's nothing wrong in that, in recalling that, oh Allah, I've had this year like that, and improve my coming year, and reflecting over last year. Okay, last year I didn't keep all 30 fasts. This year, inshallah, I will keep 30 fasts. Last year, I'm talking about the children, obviously. You and I should be keeping 30 every year. Last year I struggled to get up for Fajr, so I'm going to try to get up. So we're giving them goals to move along, and so there should be something of that nature. But I can't see what it is we're celebrating. What is it that we're celebrating? That's the thing. That's the thing that's a bit of an issue or problem. When it comes to things like this, you hear a lot of people say, oh, we don't believe in Mother's Day because mothers should be looked after every day of the year. Of course they should do, but how many days of the year do you go and buy your mother flowers? Or how many days of the year do you go and buy your mother something? So in a way, this kind of reminds us that, we should not take our mothers for granted. So it's a day which we can, reflect over and think about. So you can understand the rationale for that, here's our showing our gratefulness to and shukr and to our mother, that we don't, I know we take you for advantage, or we take you as advantage of you, we take you for granted, we don't really thank you because you're our mom, you're always there, so we want to just like spend a day where we're just gonna talk about you, mom, and whatever. So there's nothing wrong in that, you see. So I don't agree with those people who kind of come out and say, there's no such thing as Mother's Day, this, that, that. Of course there isn't. But the point I'm saying is that, is it reminding us to do a good thing, or is it reminding us to do a bad thing? Well, it's reminding us to do a good thing. So how can reminding us to do a good thing be problematic? So, it's like, for example, Fish and Chips Friday. That doesn't mean that, it is sunnah or something that we have to eat fish and chips on a Friday. But it's a nice meal at the end of the week, isn't it? Everybody likes Fish and Chip Friday. But we just do it because we know that only once a week, well, most of us only once a week are having fried food, so we save it for a Friday. So we have to understand the underlying issues there. Is it sinful if we celebrate birthdays? The brother with me is asking. I wouldn't say it's sinful, but the thing is that we have to try to understand what it is we're trying to do here. For example, what's the maqsad? It's not part of our tradition, is it? It's not Islamic tradition. We don't find it anywhere at all in our tradition where there was a celebration in this kind of way. In fact, there's very little celebration. The only celebration that we have is Eid. That's really the only celebrations that you can think of. Even when it came to, for example, Ashura, and this was a day of celebration, isn't it? Because Musa alayhi salatu wasalam gets freedom for his people, for the Bani Israel from Pharaoh. And how were the Jews remembering it? The way the Jews were remembering it was they were fasting. So the Prophet ﷺ said that we're more entitled to following Musa ﷺ than you are, because at the end of the day we actually follow his commandments, whereas you choose not to. So therefore we will do this. So look how they were celebrating. So we just like a good party, don't we? We're just very party oriented. We like and the thing is, once you've got that kind of thing, I understand, because I understand the feeling. I'm not being dismissive here, because it's easy saying that when you live in a nice little cave and you've only got your own kids in this cave and they don't have access to anybody else, because they do feel left out. Because when their cousins are having birthdays or whatever, they see what their cousins get. So we should be giving gifts to our children. We should be having gatherings with our children, but we should be trying to find reasons to do that. So find excuses to do that. Let them finish one page on the Qaida and get them a gift. Let them finish one surah, and there's 114 surahs, alhamdulillah, and then give them a gift. So then you're replacing. I'm not saying that this is also part of the sunnah, that gifts were given to the children that finished surahs of the Quran. They didn't. What I'm saying is, your now niyyah is to encourage the child, because we all need a worldly motivation as much as we have a dini motivation. We always need a worldly motivation as well, especially when we're young, just to keep us going, just to keep us moving one step after the other. So it will encourage, it will motivate. So let's replace that with that, and then you can have the conversation. And like I just had the conversation now, that what is it we're doing? What are we celebrating? What is it there? What's the maqsad? And we shouldn't just buy into every custom rawaj that's going on around us because it's going on around us. We're Muslims. We should assess each custom and value each custom, or evaluate it and give it a measure and say, actually, you know what? This is not bringing any good to my child or to my child's upbringing. In fact, it's bringing, a strange understanding, because now we're sort of, celebrating these sorts of things. So I hope that makes sense in what I'm trying to say, and I hope the brothers understand the pitch that I've just made, inshallah. Okay, we have hit the 2,000 hours, alhamdulillah, and it's been another one of those days where it was going to be slow to start. Barakallah feek, Sajid. But alhamdulillah, we had some varied questions, Ramadan orientated, and also outside of Ramadan orientated as well. And as I said, we're back tomorrow, inshallah, on Friday, same time, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. As I say, usually at this time, please do share the videos with others. Please do share the handles, the social media handles with others, so that we can get more people engaging with this. We can get more people learning. Let's get people, mashallah, understanding their deen. This is the service that you're doing as well. You are part of this process as well. And inshallah, may Allah grant us khair. Ameen. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.